person wants to fly, he must have in his possession two certificates that go hand in hand: the Airman Certificate and a valid medical certificate. In order to help provide a safe flying environment for our nation's airspace, our government has made laws governing the issuance of airman certificates to only those individuals who are medically qualified to fly. All airmen must hold a current medical certificate of the appropriate class to accompany any airman certificate that they may possess. This includes all pilots, flight engineers, flight navigators, non-federal air traffic controllers, and certain international civil airmen. In order to accomplish the medical certification of airmen, the FAA has designated selected physicians as aviation medical examiners, or AMEs. They examine applicants to detect medical conditions that might adversely affect aviation safety. Federal aviation regulations require that physical examinations be performed at 6-month intervals for air transport pilots, annually for other commercial pilots, such as air taxi, flight instructors, and crop dusters, and at 2-year intervals for private pilots. Applications for medical certificates, along with other pertinent data, are forwarded to the Aeromedical Certification Division of the Civil Aeromedical Institute, located at FAA's Mike Monroney Aeronautical Center in Oklahoma City. The Aeromedical Certification Division is the central screening facility and repository within FAA for collection, processing, adjudication, and analysis of medical data generated by aeromedical certification and regulatory programs. We manage the national system for medical examination and certification of U.S. civil airmen in the United States and abroad. This is a tremendous job when you consider that there are approximately 750,000 active airmen in the United States. We receive approximately 500,000 applications annually, compared to around 14,000 applications received during the first year of operation in 1927. To cope with this influx of applications, we utilize a sophisticated computer system for data storage, processing, and retrieval. Bags of mail are received in our mailroom each day containing applications for medical certification. The documents received are sorted for routine or priority processing, assigned medical identification or MID numbers, and grouped into bundles of 100 applications for future processing. The MID number provides subsequent document control. Coding personnel manually assign alphanumeric codes to medical and administrative data contained on the report of examination. The codes thus provide a bridge between the document and the computer. These codes must be carefully selected to assure computer recognition of problem cases. The coded examinations, still in bundles of 100, are sent to the division's data entry personnel. Initial record input is accomplished through a data entry process utilizing a 4-phase mini-computer system. The system includes computer terminals which input data to disk storage. At the beginning of each day, the data is electronically transmitted to the IBM 3084 mainframe computer, where it is managed by and becomes a part of the Comprehensive Airman Information System. This system compares the medical data with several edit programs to assure a complete record and that medical standards are met. If the computer system finds a discrepancy, it flags the problem for manual review by applications examiners. After computer processing, the reports of examination and the resulting computer output, which includes review or reject messages and duplicate and corrected certificates, are returned for the document control process. Here, reject sheets, file maintenance output, and certificates are separated, matched to input documents, and distributed to appropriate personnel. A daily count is maintained for workload processing and management reporting. Approximately 40% of all applications for medical certification processed through the computer are rejected and require manual processing by our team of professionals. About half of these applications are rejected due to omissions or blanks on the application form. Less than 1% of the total applications received are referred to regional flight surgeons for coordination, review, or legal action. Applications examiners manually review about 18,000 documents rejected by the computer each month. They are able to initiate corrective action or make the final certification decision in approximately 90% of these cases. The remaining 10% involve technical medical problems which require manual review by the division manager and his medical officers and staff specialists. The Comprehensive Airman Information System is accessed by our personnel through the use of online video computer terminals. These are used for retrieval of medical records and for file maintenance purposes. About 1/4 data entry file maintenance transactions are required each year to update or correct current medical data stored in computer files. Another division responsibility is the maintenance of a repository of microfilmed electrocardiograms, or ECGs. Our repository contains ECGs on 80,000 airmen who hold first-class medical certificates. We receive and process about 65,000 ECGs annually, most of which are processed through our automated ECG network. We also analyze and process ECGs for second and third class medical certificate applicants when necessary in the review of their medical condition. At the discretion of the Federal Air Surgeon, a medical certificate may be issued to an applicant who does not meet the applicable provisions of federal aviation regulations. This is called a special issuance and is possible if the applicant shows to the satisfaction of the Federal Air Surgeon that the duties authorized by the class of certificate applied for can be performed without endangering air commerce. Specialists in our division assist the Federal Air Surgeon in making these determinations. Special testing of the applicant is required depending on the specific problem. These tests are reviewed either by our medical officers and specialists or designated medical consultants. When appropriate, a special panel of consultant physicians is convened to offer their recommendations regarding medical certification in these problem cases. Other employees determine the disposition of referred appeal cases and evaluate and process recertification cases, issuing renewed medical certificates when appropriate. Statistical personnel monitor medical certification activities to determine ways to improve processing. They design automated systems and techniques for screening, collecting, and disseminating medical data for aeromedical certification and related programs. They also analyze certification processing problems and provide advice to CAMI personnel and the Office of Aviation Medicine on statistical trends, automatic data processing capabilities, and other capabilities related to medical certification. These employees are also responsible for approximately 70 recurring reports annually and respond to numerous inter- and intra-agency requests for statistical data. During the average year, the division receives an estimated 70,000 letters and telegrams of inquiry from airmen and physicians around the world. In order to rapidly respond to these inquiries, extensive control measures are essential to facilitate retrieval of documents by medical records personnel. To illustrate the magnitude of this task, we maintain approximately 5.5 million medical files. Our correspondence clerks provide routine typing and clerical services for the division, sending out about 90,000 letters annually. The division also receives approximately 46,000 telephone requests annually, each of which require retrieval of the airman's records from the files and preparation of a response, either by mail or telephone. The Aeromedical Certification Division of CAMI, providing service to over 750,000 airmen around the world. A very important link in the FAA chain of safety.
The FAA's designated aviation medical examiners, or AMEs, play a vital role in keeping our nation's airspace safe. They are responsible for the physical examination of airmen applicants to determine whether the applicants meet the Federal Aviation Administration's medical standards. In the past, the results of these physical examinations, about 500,000 per year, were mailed to the Civil Aeromedical Institute, CAMI, in Oklahoma City for processing. And in the past, CAMI's Aeromedical Certification Division had to handle this influx of mail, over 1,900 applications per day, by a laborious, time-consuming process of sorting, coding, and computer inputting. Further processing was delayed until the needed information was supplied by the AME or pilot. This old method, labor-intensive, slow, and heavy on paper handling, sometimes created a large backlog of applications. To solve this massive paperwork problem, a highly sophisticated system has been developed by the FAA's Office of Aviation Medicine to essentially replace the outmoded manual method. The new system, called the Aeromedical Certification Subsystem, or AMCS, provides direct electronic communications between the AME's office and CAMI's Aeromedical Certification Division. The AMCS streamlines the flow of data by decreasing the chance of errors when completing the application for medical certification, FAA Form 8500-8. The AMCS software is available free of charge to all aviation medical examiners on a phased-in basis. However, this software does require a specific computer environment to operate properly. AMCS does not require a special phone line, but AMEs may find it beneficial to have a dedicated line for certification use. A list of computer component recommendations is available from an AMCS hotline operator. The AMCS can be incorporated into almost any AME practice. The following is just one example of a high-volume AME benefiting from the use of AMCS.
Hello, I'm Dr. Crass, an aviation medical examiner in Bedford, Texas. Due to the large number of pilots I service in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, I thought it important I learn as much as I could about AMCS. Let me show you how AMCS fits into my office practice.
Once a physical examination is completed, the results are documented on the FAA number 8500-8 exam form. This information is then transferred to computer by using the AMCS software application. Please note, the applicant must still sign and date the front of the FAA number 8500-8 form. The AME can then use the back portion of this original as his working copy. This original form must be retained by the AME for 3 years. Entering exam form data into the computer usually takes 5 to 7 minutes. It is important to note that exams with lengthy notes or attachments should not be transmitted via AMCS. Examples of exams with attachments are an applicant with glaucoma who needs a complete ophthalmological report, or perhaps an applicant with hypertension who needs a complete cardiac study. In such instances, these exams should be mailed to the Aeromedical Certification Division in Oklahoma City. Whenever in doubt, the AMCS hotline is available to answer any questions. One feature of the system alerts the user when required information is missing. It also warns when data such as hearing, vision, blood pressure, and pulse readings do not meet numerical standards. It will prompt the user for a comment whenever a medical history or exam abnormality requires an explanation. When using the previous certification method, over 20% of the exams received from all AMEs required additional processing by the FAA. This was due to errors of omission or incorrect certification. Such errors are significantly reduced by the use of AMCS. With AMCS software, AMEs can validate data before a medical certificate is issued to an airman. Validation before certification is a critical factor in reducing the risk of providing a medically unqualified applicant with a valid medical certificate. Now, airman data can be validated by AMCS before he or she leaves the AME's office. Through this system, errors of omission and inadvertent errors are caught immediately. Exam information does not have to be validated while the applicant is in the doctor's office. However, FAA recommends that exam information be entered and validated before issuing a certificate. If the AME so chooses, the applicant can wait while the exam information is being processed. Otherwise, the certificate can be mailed, or the airman can pick it up the next day. Once the exam information has been entered into the computer, it should be transmitted to the Aeromedical Certification Division as soon as possible, but always within 2 weeks of the date of the exam. A warning will alert the AME as to exams that are older than 14 days and have not yet been transmitted. It is best to transmit several exams together in a batch, minimizing telephone costs. AMCS has an option that will allow exams to be automatically transmitted in an unattended mode at a time pre-specified by the AME, such as 11 p.m. This will provide the user the lowest possible telephone rates and will avoid tying up a non-dedicated phone line. It is estimated that it takes about 1 minute to send a single exam form and an additional 20 seconds to send each additional exam form within a single telephone connection. The AMCS includes a host computer at the Aeromedical Certification Division, which accepts transmission from AME offices. Upon completion of the transmission, information is verified, and records that might need additional coding are identified. The host computer retains that data online until it can be coded and forwarded to the Comprehensive Airman Information System, also known as CAS. That information is then archived on the host for future reference. Another feature about the AMCS is that it offers online help, which facilitates using the software and reduces dependency on documentation. Online help provides AMEs with additional support in making certification decisions. It also reduces the need for involvement of aeromedical certification personnel on some cases. Besides being easy to use, AMCS allows the AME to receive timely updates about certification rules and decisions via broadcast messages. There are several other extremely useful features within the AMCS system. For instance, there's a reporting function which provides a printout of various information such as an online list of exams that have been marked as waiting for lab results, a list of scheduled exams for any given day, week, or month, or a copy of the exam entered. There's also a communications status window that shows if exams have been transmitted successfully, how many broadcast messages were received, and how many reference tables were received during the transmission. The AMCS software also gives the AME the capability to print the certificate. Thanks to AMCS, the whole certification process is enhanced.
All right, thank you.
Okay, have a good one. As you can see, this is one way AMCS can work in your office. It's worked well for my office and office staff. Each office is unique, and you may need to tailor AMCS to your individual office procedures. If you have any questions or any problems, you may contact the FAA at the Regional Flight Surgeon's office or your AMCS hotline.
Every exam that is transmitted to the Aeromedical Certification Division is decrypted, backed up, and a copy maintained until data are successfully processed. These exams are protected against computer failure and can be retrieved, channeled, or processed as the need arises. A subset of the information is then sent to CAS. Only exams that pass host validation are sent to CAS. Thus far, 85% of exams received electronically have no AME errors or omissions and go straight to CAS. Compare this to the manual system, where a single exam may have taken weeks to process if there was an error or omission. Now, all of this can be done electronically. Data can be sent and retrieved fast and efficiently. Now that you've seen the process all the way through and have learned where the information goes, what would you do if you or your staff had a problem with the electronic system? The AMCS has a hotline staff ready to assist you.
AMCS Software Support, this is Alan. Can I help you?
Yes, Alan, this is Beverly Smith with Dr. Militia's office, and I have a question regarding the F6 key.
Okay, Beverly, let me get some information from you. I want to confirm your phone number here. Okay, it's 718-555-5152.
That is correct.
And you needed information on the F6 copy key?
Well, it's my understanding that the F6 key is for certain situations, but could you tell me exactly, what it's used for?
Okay, basically the F6 copy key allows you to put information into an exam that has already existed. For instance, if a pilot has come in after 6 months and he just has very little or insubstantial medical change, you can re-enter the information using the F6 copy key and then change the vital medical changes that he has had within those last 6 months. This allows you to not have to enter any more information that is necessary.
Great, that sounds like it will save us a lot of time. I sure appreciate your help.
Thank you, Beverly, and you have a good day. Bye-bye.
AMCS Hotline, Tammy, may I help you?
Yeah, Tammy, this is Dr. Perry. I have a question about the medical subsystem here.
Sure, Dr. Perry, go ahead.
Well, can you tell me what the fastest way to bring up an applicant who's already in the system is?
Okay, Dr. Perry, from your main menu, choose Exam Information.
Exam information.
When you have the screen up, hit F2 Find. That's from the command line down at the bottom of the screen.
Okay.
Enter either the certificate number or the applicant's last name.
Okay, last name would be best.
Hit F5 Do It.
F5, right?
Then that applicant should come up
okay.
for you.
Yeah, that was easy. Thank you very much.
And I'm having some trouble with my modem. It's not working properly. I don't know what to do.
Okay, Kathy, could you do me a favor? On the back of the modem, that's where all the cords go into the modem. Check those cords for me and see if anything's
Okay.
loose and make sure everything's plugged in.
It looks like it's my telephone line.
Okay, make sure that's real secure in the back. Push it in until it clicks. Okay, now try it again.
Okay.
All the lights should be lighting. It comes back, modem checks out okay.
Looks like that did it.
Okay, Kathy.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for calling
Bye-bye.
in. Bye-bye.
You can call the AMCS hotline from 7:30 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. Central Time on regular business days.
Good day to you. This is the AMCS hotline voicemail box. This
Voicemail
mailbox
is
for the
available for you to leave a message after hours. By now, you're probably wondering what's the first step in getting involved along with other AMEs in using the AMCS software. First, let an Aeromedical Certification Division person or your regional AMCS contact person know you are interested in participating. The representative will send you a questionnaire to complete regarding your current computer environment. All information you send to them, as well as the hardware questionnaire, is kept on file through the AMCS hotline tracking system. Any communication you have with the division is logged and stored for future reference. Certain information is required to make sure that the software sent to you is compatible with your system. If you have more than one computer that will be using the AMCS, please complete a questionnaire for each computer. If you don't have a computer, equipment recommendations can be obtained at an AME seminar or by calling the AMCS hotline. The recommended hardware and operating system software are estimated to cost $1,400 to $1,600. Keep in mind, the more powerful the machine is, the faster the software will perform. This will result in more efficient data entry procedures for you and your office personnel. Upon completion and return of your questionnaire, you'll be notified regarding your participation in the AMCS program. If your equipment is compatible with the AMCS software, you'll be phased into the implementation process as soon as possible. The entire process will be completed in 3 phases over an estimated 3-year period. Operational Phase 1, expected to last through October 1993, should bring approximately 500 AMEs online. Operational Phase 2, expected to start in October 93 and last through October 94, is directed towards having an additional 1,200 AMEs online. Operational Phase 3, expected to start in October 1994 and last through December 1995, will bring the remaining AMEs online. As you can see, the goal of each phase is to increase the number of AME users. In addition to these phases, enhancements to the program will be adopted along the way. The future of AMCS is bright. AMEs using the system play a vital role in the future direction of AMCS. Based on user feedback, here are a few suggestions that are being considered as possible enhancements to the system. LAN capability, which allows the system to handle several users in the same office simultaneously. The ability for the AME to enter exam data at home and transfer the data to an office computer. Since everyone's computer experience is different, training needs will vary. A Getting Started guide and tutorials are currently provided with the AMCS software. Additional training alternatives are being considered. As suggestions are made, additional functions may be adapted to the AMCS software. As a newcomer to the AMCS system, you can expect to receive these items in addition to your software. Getting Started guide with tutorials, a detailed user's manual, and an AMCS quick reference card. And don't forget, online help is available at your fingertips. Shortly before your software package arrives, you'll receive your host password to use in transmitting exams to the Aero Medical Certification Division. Once you've followed the installation instructions contained in the Getting Started guide, you're ready to enter the practice exam data provided to you. After successfully completing the practice exams, you'll be ready to begin entering and transmitting the number 8500-8 exams. The AMCS allows Aero Medical Certification Division resources to be focused on time-critical processes like complex cases. We believe that this automated system of certification provides us an opportunity to sharply focus on the quality of the medical examination and its reporting. As a result, a better product delivered in a more timely fashion means better service to airmen, plus improved efficiency and effectiveness of the medical certification program. The AMCS provides another step in achieving greater heights of aviation safety and service. We hope you strongly consider participating in this opportunity to enhance the medical certification process.
Hi, I'm Dr. Steve Carpenter. I'd like to welcome you to our office today. We'll be glad to have you spend the afternoon with us watching us do some of the things that doctors do so that you have a feeling for what medicine is like out here in rural Oklahoma. Our first patient today is going to be a pilot for an FAA flight physical. Not all of you know, but a few months ago, Dr. Smythe, our local AME, retired, and I've been certified now by the FAA to perform flight physicals. And since you're interested in medicine and maybe being a doctor someday, I'm going to let you sit in while I talk with Mr. Pilot, who's our first applicant today. Mr. Pilot called last week for an appointment, and my receptionist made the appointment and reminded him at that time that if he wore contact lenses, he should remove them before he comes. And also she reminded him to bring some photo identification. When he got here today, she did ask him for the photo identification, which he provided. I know him since he's my banker and since he holds the mortgage here on my office and at my house back home. But she didn't know him, and so she properly asked him for the identification. She then gave him an 8508 application form to fill out, just like this one here. And you should have a copy of this form as appendix number 11 in your handouts. After Mr. Pilot completed the form, then he's ready for me to talk to go over some of the things that he wrote down here on the form before we proceed with the physical exam. Well, hi, Mr. Pilot. How are you today?
Hi. Hey, nice to see you.
Good to see you. Is it okay if I call you Billy Ray?
Absolutely.
Okay.
That'd be great.
Why don't you have a seat here? Let's talk for a few minutes.
Okay.
We have a few folks here with us today to sort of sit in on our physical exam and our interviews. You don't mind if they tag along? They're pre-medical students thinking about being doctors someday.
Hey, that would be just fine.
Okay, good. Well, I know that before we get started, I just want to ask you a couple of questions. I know you're a pilot.
Right.
You know, when I was down at your bank a couple of years ago getting the mortgage, you were telling me about your flying that you do. And they tell me that you own your own airplane.
Right. I have a 1958 Bonanza. It's sometimes called a forky-tailed doctor killer. But, you know, if you're not a doctor, it's all right.
Oh, okay. Well, thanks. The 58 Bonanza, you say?
Right.
You know, that's an amazing coincidence because 1958 was the year that the Federal Aviation Act of 1958 was passed, which actually established the Federal Aviation Agency like we know it today. That was the act that set down a lot of the rules and regulations that we go by today.
You know, I've been going to Dr. Smite for a number of years, but does this make you qualified to do this exam, doctor? Or?
Yes, as a matter of fact, part of the Aviation Act of 1958 included some of the federal aviation regulations. And those regulations included Part 67 of the regulations, which is the medical part. And in there, the Part 6725 of the medical regulations actually delegate the authority from the administrator of the FAA down to me as a certified AME to perform these physical exams on the pilots to make sure they're healthy enough to fly. I attended a course in Oklahoma City where the great folks there at the FAA taught me how to, what to look for on my flight physicals and how to fill out the paperwork and that sort of thing. And so now for the last couple of months I've been certified to do these exams.
Okay, that's really convenient. Great.
Okay. Well, let me just ask you a few questions here. I've looked over the form that you filled out earlier today, and I noticed that you left the part about the certificate, the class of certificate that you want blank, way up at the upper right-hand corner in Block 2, where your choices are first, second, or third. Do you know what kind of medical certificate you want?
Well, I've been carrying a third class since I got out of the Air Force, but I've been thinking about upgrading it. I've got a couple of thousand military flying, 500 civilian. I thought maybe a first or a second class, but I'm really not sure what the difference is.
Oh, okay. Well, as you know, there are 3 different classes of medical certificates. First class being the highest class, if you will, for airline transport pilots, those pilots who are pilot in command of scheduled airliners. And then there's a Class 3, which is sort of the lowest class, if you think about them that way, for private pilots. And then Class 2 are for all other commercial activities in between being an airline captain and being a private pilot. Some of the differences between the classes of certificates are the length of time that the certificates are good for. A Class 3 certificate is usually good for 24 months, whereas a first class certificate is usually only good for 6 months. Also, the physical exam standards are a little bit different. You have to be a little healthier to get a Class 1 than a Class 3. And one other thing is there's some additional testing sometimes required for a Class 1. For you, for instance, for a Class 1, since you're over 40, I can tell by your birth date on here, you'd be required to have an electrocardiogram as part of your exam.
Well, but I've already had an electrocardiogram before, Doc. Do I still need one?
Yeah, you'd still have to get one, a new one today.
Well, would I need one if I had a second class?
No, you don't need an electrocardiogram for second class.
All right, tell you what, Doc, why don't you just go ahead and mark on that, just put me down for a second class, okay?
Second class is what you want.
Second class, right. Okay. No EKG with that, right?
No EKG.
Okay.
Okay. Well, I'm not allowed to write on the front side of the form. This is the side that you filled out, and it's supposed to be filled out completely by you and in your own handwriting. So what I can do is I can give you back the form and let you mark it yourself.
Okay.
Right up there at the top where it says second class. There you go.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Would you mind initialing that too, since that pen color is different than the other pen that you used?
What? Yes. No, I don't mind at all, Doc.
The FAA is pretty particular about having these forms filled out right. Okay. Well, I was just looking over the form, and I noticed that in Block 17, right there in the middle, where it asks about do you currently use any medications, you left that blank. What was the...
Well, I didn't know what to put because, you know, I don't require any medications, but occasionally I do take some medications.
Oh, okay. What sort of medications do you take when you occasionally take?
Well, occasionally I take some Thorazine.
Some Thorazine?
Some Thorazine, right. And
okay. What do you...
It's not a big deal. It's just, you know how sometimes when the television will talk to you, I mean, when it's not turned on, you know, radio gives you messages and so forth. You feel like you're wired up, come out of people out of space and so forth. So you take this Thorazine and you lose those feelings.
Oh, okay.
And anyway, my wife thinks I'm better off.
She thinks you're better off when you take it. How often do you take the Thorazine?
Well, occasionally I take it. I take it twice a day.
Twice a day?
Yes,
And that's
sometimes 3 if I'm real nervous.
I see. Okay. Do you mind if I take some notes while we talk here?
Not at all.
Okay. Let me just write some of this down here so I don't forget it all. Okay. Thorazine. Is that the only medication that you take occasionally?
Well, there's another medicine I take. Like I hate to even mention this, but I had a light heart attack, a very, very light heart attack about 5 years ago. And well, actually the heart is perfect, just perfect, but the vessels feeding the muscle there is sort of messed up. And they gave me this pill to take twice a day called Nitrobid. So
Nitrobid?
Right, I take that twice a day.
Okay. You had a heart attack 5 years ago?
It was really nothing. You know, I assume they know what they're talking about. But anyway, I noticed like when I get chest pain or pain down my arms and so forth, they gave me another pill I put on my tongue. And it makes it all go away. Gives a little headache sometimes, but works great. He says there's nothing wrong with my heart, just the vessels.
Okay. Let me just take a couple more notes here. Did they do, you said that the vessels were a problem, so I presume they did an angiogram?
Yeah, they put something in my groin there and took a lot of pictures of my heart. Told me I'm in good shape. Don't need surgery or anything.
How often do you have that chest pain where you need to take the pills under your tongue?
Oh, no more than once or twice a day. You know, it depends on how busy we are at the bank and people come and complain and so forth.
Once or twice a day?
Right. The little pill on the tongue takes care of it, though.
Okay. So you take the Thorazine and the Nitrobid. Any other medications besides the one under your tongue?
Well, yeah, there is another drug I take occasionally called Dilantin.
Dilantin?
Dilantin,
And why is it that you take the Dilantin?
Well, I want you to know this is just hearsay, but my wife tells me that, well, she found me falling around the floor, jerking around, losing all my bodily functions and stuff, and she told me about it. I didn't believe her, but after a few times, I went to the hospital and they did some tests, and they told me I was really okay, but I need to take this Dilantin. And I haven't had any of those spells since then.
So they were like falling down, shaking spells?
Right, it sort of fits, you know. Like
Did they ever say that you had epilepsy or anything like that?
Yeah, it could be something like that, some medical stuff.
Okay. You take the Dilantin?
Twice a day.
Twice a day?
Uh-huh.
Okay. Let me write that down here. Okay, so you take the Dilantin, you take the Nitrobid, you take the Thorazine, and the one under your tongue.
Right.
That's pretty much all that you take regularly now?
Well, yeah, pretty much regularly. I used to take something, I had to give myself a shot. One time I was really heavy and I had to pee a lot and drink a lot and all this stuff, and the doctor gave me something called insulin.
Insulin?
Right, and I could take that, and gosh, that really did the job for me. However, I've lost about 100 pounds and I don't really need it much anymore, so I don't take that regularly either.
You've lost 100 pounds?
Right,
Well, that's pretty impressive, and you don't need the insulin anymore?
No, generally I don't take it.
Can you eat pretty much what you want to now?
Oh, I always do.
You always?
Sure.
Okay. Maybe I better write that down just to be on the safe side. Okay, so you take the Thorazine, you take the Nitrobid, you take the Dilantin, you take the insulin, and probably that's nitroglycerin that you put under your tongue.
Right.
Any other medications that you take?
I can't think of any other medications I take.
Okay. Seems like that's enough.
Yeah, it's enough.
Okay, well, let's continue on with the form here.
Okay.
I notice in block 18, you've answered that in a funny way. You've drawn these squiggly lines down through all the no answers, and then you went back and put some X's in the yes boxes.
Right.
What is all that about?
Well, you know, I've been going to Dr. Smite for years, and Smite is really an intelligent doctor. He told me mark everything no, and then no problems with FAA. And actually, we never have had a problem with the FAA, but I got to reading down there this time. It says there's a jail sentence and a $250,000 fine.
Down here at the bottom.
Right, down at the bottom there, right. Yeah, I got thinking, well, you know, somebody might think that maybe some of those answers should be yes. I'm not for sure. So anyway, I changed some of them.
So after you got down and you read that notice, you went back and you answered a few of them differently.
Right,
Okay. Well, let me ask you a question about some of these.
Okay.
One of them is dizziness or fainting spell. That probably has to do with these falling down, shaking spells. Is that?
Right, those fits, although I have had on occasion where I would just wake up in a ditch. But no, it wasn't anything important because the doctors had checked me out and they couldn't find any reason for me losing conscience that way. So I'm all right, I know.
You wake up in a ditch? You mean like you were driving and,
right,
and lost consciousness?
Right, and I'd wake up
and they couldn't figure out why?
In a ditch. No, they never did figure out why.
Okay. Oh, that would explain then the next answer, unconsciousness for any reason.
Right.
There's actually maybe several reasons why you've had unconsciousness in the past.
Possibly.
Possibly. Okay.
I'm in good shape now, though, Doc.
But you're okay now?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. You marked yes to the question about heart or vascular troubles. That would have been your light heart attack.
That's, yeah, the very light.
The very light one, and the blockages there.
Right.
Okay. And you marked yes to the question about diabetes. That would have been back when you were 100 pounds heavier and having to take your insulin.
Yes.
Okay. And then you marked answer L correct. That's, or as yes, neurologic disorders, epilepsy, seizures, strokes, paralysis. Again, that has to do with your seizures
That's
there, I
right.
presume. Okay. If I miss anything, if there's other additional information you want to give, feel free to let me know.
Okay.
Now, you marked yes to mental disorders of any sort, depression, anxiety, that sort of thing?
Yes. Well, I put that yes because I had a little problem with the Air Force at one time. And
you had a problem with the Air Force
right,
at one
just
time.
a misunderstanding. It was nothing really bad, but I did have a misunderstanding.
Could you explain that to me a little bit more?
Well, this is in Vietnam. I was flying F-100s. I was running night bombing runs, and it was just pretty boring. I spent all day looking for blinds. I couldn't find any, and one time I noticed if I buzzed the tower, got a little close to them, they get excited. So one time I really put the old Sabre on top of one, and well, they got pretty upset about that. In fact, they grounded me for a couple of weeks.
They grounded you for a couple of weeks for buzzing the tower.
That's right, yeah. Anyway, it seemed like every time I buzzed the tower from then on, they'd ground me for a couple of weeks.
How many times did that happen?
Well, 6, 7 times, I think. And then they had me take some tests, really dumb tests, fill out all these questions and stuff. Took me half the day. And about 3 days after that, they sent me back to the States and discharged me. So
they discharged you?
That's right, right. So I figured there must be some kind of misunderstanding.
Did they ever say what they thought was causing the results of the test or anything?
They didn't say a whole lot to me.
They didn't say a whole lot to you. They just gave you the test and then
right.
before you knew it, you were out of the service.
That's right.
Okay. This next one's interesting. You answered yes to the question about substance dependence or failed the drug test ever or substance abuse or use of illegal substance in the last 5 years.
Okay.
Could you explain that to me?
Yeah, it's just some boy stuff, Doc. You know, I'm a banker, and sometimes we get these banker conventions. Well, you know, they're kind of high rollers. They have this white nose candy. I know you read about it, and I know you probably had bad feelings about it, but actually it's really good stuff. And
is that cocaine that you're talking about?
Well, yeah, I think they call it cocaine. These guys call it nose candy, but anyway, we'll get together. I use that occasionally.
You use cocaine once in a while?
Well, sure, when the boys bring some down.
Okay. Is alcohol ever a problem for you?
I don't consider it a problem.
Do you drink at all?
Oh, well, sure, I drink at night, you know, relax, sleep better that way.
Sleep better that way?
Sure.
About how much do you have to drink at night, would you say?
Well, generally, I don't remember exactly how much I drink, but there's usually an empty fifth bottle the next morning, usually.
So you probably drink a fifth a night?
Well, I could, yeah, but my wife could be sneaking some of this too.
Oh, okay. Okay. What is it that you usually drink?
Well, Jack Daniels is my preference.
Jack Daniels?
Yes.
And that's whiskey, I believe, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it is.
Okay.
Doc, I don't want you to think I'm an alcoholic, because I'm not. I just drink at night. I only drink at home. When I'm home at night.
You only drink when you're home at night?
Right.
Not out during the day at all?
Not generally.
Not generally?
No.
Once in a while?
I can't even remember.
Okay. We'll pass on that for
Okay.
now. Oh, you sure you did mark yes to the question about, question R about military medical discharge? That would have been...
Yeah, that was a misunderstanding I had. Like I say, it's probably more administrative than medical.
Mercy. Okay, admission to hospital you marked yes for. That would have been probably for some of these things that we've talked about already, a heart condition.
Well, when I was having the fits, right, and
fits
they're taking pictures of my heart and stuff.
I see, okay. And you marked yes to a question about other illnesses, disabilities, or surgeries.
Mm-hmm. Okay, well, that was another misunderstanding. Did your wife have a dog? Well, never mind. My wife has this poodle, and it cost me $50 to get that thing cut, you know? I'm talking about the haircut.
I mean, getting groomed.
Yeah, this was daytime. I guess I was drinking a little bit earlier that day, but I thought I'd trim old Fifi myself. Now I got this brand new 18-inch Poland chainsaw. Well, anyway, the dog was just absolutely misbehaved, and I cut my leg somewhat there.
You'd been drinking.
Right,
And you were going to trim the dog with the chainsaw?
Yes,
And you cut your leg?
Right,
I noticed that you had a limp when you came in.
Right, yeah, those tendons and stuff, they just went ahead and took the leg off.
Oh, you had an amputation of the leg?
Yes, Yeah,
oh, so that's a prosthesis there?
Yes,
Oh, I see. Okay. How long ago did that happen?
Oh, I think about 3 years ago.
Wow.
Hey, I still, no problem. I water ski, square dance, no problem. Riding my motorcycle, of course I got a liquid start on it, but no problem. You know, I was going to ask you about that because my instructor had said something about maybe I need some kind of a special thing on my pilot license to fly with old Woody.
With old Woody?
Yes.
That's what you call your leg? Okay. Well, yeah. Actually, it's what we would call a statement of demonstrated ability is probably what you'd need. The statement of demonstrated ability, SODA or SODA for short, is what the FAA issues to somebody that's got a permanent defect, like the loss of an extremity or something like that. It's an extra sheet of paper that you'd carry around with you in your billfold along with your pilot's certificate. Basically, what you do is you'd go out and fly with an FAA inspector. I guess you haven't done that?
Well, I haven't got around to that. Yeah, I wasn't sure what I needed.
I see. Okay. Well, you'd fly with an inspector, and if he thought you could operate the controls okay with the wooden leg, then he would issue that SODA to you, and then you wouldn't have to be tested again, since that's not a condition that's going to change.
Okay, good.
On the other hand, you know, if you had some other medical condition, like a kidney stone, for instance, or something that might be medically changing over a period of time, then you'd get what we call a special issuance instead of a SODA, which is a special examination procedure that a person goes through if they have some other kind of medical problem that would be expected to change over time. And you don't get a separate sheet of paper with that. That's only for the static one-time defects like this.
Okay.
So this is probably what we'll have to.
Hey, great. Maybe you can fix that up for me, Doc, because I want to be legal.
Oh, I understand that. Well, I'll tell you what, we can get started with the physical here in a minute if you'd like to. But it looks like we may run into some problems getting you certified today.
So, hey, I really need to go flying this afternoon, Doc. I hope this is not going to be a problem.
Well, it might be. You see, one of the problems is that in the federal aviation regulations, there are 10 medical conditions that are listed as specifically disqualifying.
Oh, that covers
now, you and I know there's several thousand different medical conditions people can have, but the government chose, when Congress wrote the rules, to list 10 of them specifically as being so important to aviation medicine that they were really specifically listed as being disqualifying. And then any other medical condition might be disqualifying if it's bad enough, but these 10 are were listed as kind of definitely disqualifying. And those 10 conditions were a history of psychosis, a history of myocardial infarction, coronary artery disease, angina pectoris, a history of epilepsy, diabetes that requires insulin, unexplained loss of consciousness, personality disorder that's manifest by repeat overt acts, drug dependence and alcohol dependence. Those are the 10 conditions that are listed as specifically disqualifying. And you've got all 10 of them.
What is this? I mean, this isn't going to keep me from getting my certificate today, is it, Doc?
Well, I'm afraid it is, because with even one of these conditions, I wouldn't be allowed to issue the medical certificate today. I'd have to send it off to the FAA and let them look at the application form, and they might ask you for some medical records and that sort of thing before they could ultimately say whether you were certified or not. Now, as an AME, I can actually deny you. I can say you're not qualified for medical certificate based on these things. Now, I wouldn't do that to you.
Oh, thank God.
I'm just going to let the FAA make the decision, though. They say I can't issue the certificate today with conditions like this.
Doc, those bureaucrats, they like to pick on us folks who work for a living. What will happen if they turn me down?
Well, if they turn you down, you have some recourse there. If they say you're not qualified, then you can appeal that to the National Transportation Safety Board. That's a presidentially appointed commission that's totally independent of the FAA, but they're charged with deciding whether the certificate actions that the FAA took were proper or not. And so you'd appeal it to the National Transportation Safety Board, and you'd go to a hearing before an administrative law judge who would hear your side of the story and the FAA side of the story, and then make a decision as to whether the FAA was proper by not allowing you the certificate. Now, even if the judge found against you, you could still appeal it into the court system, to the Court of Appeals, and ultimately to the Supreme Court if you wanted to.
Wow.
Although I'm not aware of any aviation medical cases that have ever made it to the Supreme Court, it's always a possibility. But hopefully you won't have to go that far. I'll write a good letter for you along with this, and we'll just see what the FAA says.
You know, Doc, I tell you, that seems like a lot of trouble to me. I mean, all those bureaucrats and stuff. Yeah, I've been thinking about getting a new Harley. What if you just tore that up? We just forget about it for right now, and then in the future, if I decide I want to get my license, I'd come back to you and we can go through all this thing.
Well, I'm not allowed to tear up the certificate. Or the application form. Well, once it's started, I've got to go ahead and send it on into the FAA there in Oklahoma City. I don't have a choice on that. That's just the law.
Even if I don't want the license, you're still going to send that in?
Even if you don't want it, I still have to send it in. I'm sorry.
Lord.
Now, you understand that this is nothing personal between you and me. I'm just following the regulations like they're laid down for me.
Okay, Doc.
So it's not that I don't want you to fly or that I don't want to be your friend. It's just that it's just the way business is. I just have to do that.
Okay, Doc. Well, I'm not taking it personal, but we do have some loans on you, don't we, Doc? Variable rates?
Well, yes.
Have you heard that doctors' rates are going to really go up? Tomorrow, as a matter of fact. Well, I didn't want to drop the bad news on you, Doc, but I might as well go on and look for that Harley.
Well, no, wait a minute. Let's talk about these loans a little bit.